This is a story about a fight for an identity that the law refused to see. Okay, let's get right into it. Imagine this. You know who your father is. Your whole life, you've had a relationship, you've made memories, but then he dies, and the law looks at you and says, sorry, you're a stranger? So for Ethan, his father's death wasn't just this terrible personal tragedy. It turned out to be the start of a complete and total legal nightmare. And things went downhill fast. So in April 2022, Ethan's father, Michael, passes away. A few months later, by October, Ethan does what you'd expect and applies for his share of the inheritance. But then, just 1 month later, bam, the door is slammed shut. His claim, rejected, and 100% of the estate is awarded to his younger half-brother, Lucas. And the reason for all this? It's honestly hard to wrap your head around. It all came down to a single missing line of text on a piece of paper. You see, Michael's name wasn't on Ethan's birth certificate, so legally speaking, Ethan wasn't his son. That meant no rights, no claim, nothing. It was like his entire relationship with his dad was just erased. All because of a bureaucratic technicality. So Ethan had no choice. He had to file a lawsuit just to prove who he was. But you know how slowly the wheels of justice can turn? And while they were turning, the very inheritance he was fighting for, well, it started to disappear. It's like there were two different clocks ticking at the same time. On one clock, you've got Ethan stuck in this slow-moving legal battle, just trying to get a judge to say, yes, this was your father. But on the other clock, time was moving much faster. Lucas's mother, Laura, she had control of the estate, and she wasn't waiting around. She started selling things off. The family car, scrapped. A property, sold. The inheritance was literally vanishing, piece by piece. And get this, one of the properties was sold for about 20,000 euros just one day, a single day after a court finally, officially recognized Ethan as Michael's son. Can you believe that timing? It's just devastating. The court did not focus on emotion. It asked one key legal question. So this is the puzzle the court had to solve. Is a son still an heir if his paternity is legally proven after the inheritance has already been given away? I mean, Ethan was now officially his father's son, but the money, the property, it had already been legally handed over to someone else. So the question is, can a new legal fact go back and rewrite the past? So, to figure this out, the court really had to untangle two things: the biological truth and the bureaucratic timing. And the first move the court made was huge. It came down to this idea of kinship. Basically, the court said that your relationship to your parent, it exists from the moment you're born, not from the date stamped on some legal document. And what that meant was, on the day Michael died, Ethan was his legal heir. He always had been. Okay, so great news for Ethan, right? He won a major battle, his rights were officially established, but that just led to the next big problem, a much more practical one. With stuff being sold off and money being spent, what was actually left for him to claim? All right, so this is where the court really had to get into the weeds, figuring out what was in the pot and what was out. So what was in? Any property that was still around, cash in the bank, and any pension funds. Simple enough. But then there's the out pile, the property that was already sold and the car that was scrapped. The court basically said, sorry, those are gone. If you want to go after the money from that sale, you'll need to file a completely new lawsuit. Also out, a life insurance payout for about 7,500 euros. Turns out Michael had named Lucas as the beneficiary, which makes it a direct gift, totally separate from the estate. So now that they knew exactly what was on the table, the court moved to the final critical step, doing the math. And this is what that final pot of assets looked like. The biggest piece of the pie was cash from the bank, about 84,500 euros. Then you had the remaining property, valued at around 40,000. And finally, about 8,000 euros in pension funds, plus some other minor assets. This was the total estate that was going to be split. And the way the court decided to split it was actually pretty clever. Step 1, it declared Ethan and Lucas were 50-50 heirs. Easy. Step 2, to avoid selling off the last remaining property, they just gave full ownership of it to Ethan. But, and this is the key part, he then had to pay his half-brother, Lucas, for his half of that property's value. So the court just took Ethan's half of the cash, subtracted what he owed Lucas for the property, and whatever was left over, that was his final payout. So after all of that, all the accounting, all the legal battles, all the heartache, This was the final number. The court ordered Laura, acting for her son Lucas, to pay Ethan about 22,250 euros. So in the end, yeah, Ethan was recognized. But it was only after this long, painful, and expensive fight over what little was left. It's just a stark reminder, isn't it, that sometimes, in the eyes of the law, a piece of paper can be more powerful than a bloodline. One decision changed everything. Watch the next case right here, and subscribe for more real stories.